What does a full home restoration include?
What does a full home restoration include? It most often includes some type of an emergency service at the beginning of it, and that could be due to a fire or a flood. So, some quick action. Think about maybe a trip to the emergency room. We're going to stop things from getting worse really quick. So, that's in the early stages of it. Beyond that, you'll get involved pretty heavily with, most likely, your insurance carrier. And that's a bit of a process that most people aren't used to, but we're experts in it. We deal with insurance companies all the time, so we can help you navigate that. So dealing with your insurance, they're necessary because you're filing a claim. They're the ones writing the check, paying for the work that's being done. And they're involved from beginning to the end, really, but kind of in that middle stage, it's probably the heaviest involvement with them. Once we get approvals and we get funding, then we're moving on to reconstruction or repair stage of the project. And that'll include in the early stages, some planning and some decisions, making color selections or maybe reallocating budgets. I had that, but I want to go to this. And we'd like to have those details figured out as well as we can before we start. The better we do at that, the better the project typically goes. And then we're off to doing the build, getting the repair work done. So then what it looks like is contractors coming in and out of your property and doing their part, getting it ready for the next one. And then the next one comes in and working through that. From beginning to end on that, when you're working with a company like Paul Davis, you have a project manager assigned to your project that helps you navigate and walk through that entire process so that you're not left to figuring that out on your own.
What are the typical steps involved in home restoration?
The typical steps in home restoration, one, it usually begins with some type of home emergency, a flood, a fire, discovering mold that's probably been growing there for a while, but starts there. So there's an emergency service phase that we come in kind of a triage type environment where we get the damage stopped, make sure it doesn't progress any further. So that's a step one, but we get that completed. Often takes typically probably inside of a week is what that phase is taking. And then we move into a reconstruction phase of the project. And that involves construction as most people understand it. Putting sheetrock back on a wall, repainting surfaces, putting trim and flooring back in place. So real generically, that's what it is. Now, there's also kind of sandwiched in between those two distinct parts of it. When it's an insurance claim, there's a insurance approvals phase that can be the most unpleasant part of the process of work we do because it's a lot of waiting, a lot of decision making happening. Estimates get prepared, sent, approved, negotiated, I guess, before approval, and funds are released and sent. Sometimes they're sent to a variety of places. There's just a lot to figure out in that in-between stage. So maybe I'd say it's those three phases: an emergency phase, a insurance approvals and funding stage, and then a reconstruction phase.